Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Airport Leadership Collective Fireside Chat. I'm super excited to be here with you. My name is Karen Ellis. I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer for the San Antonio Airport System, and I kind of lead this panel of discussion. I'm super excited to have our board chair, Ricky Smith, on with us today, and I'll let him open with a couple of remarks. Ricky, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Karen, you had to think about my role a little bit, I noticed.
I did. You know
Well,
you.
yeah, no, we know you. So, like you, Karen, I too am excited about this fireside chat. I'm always excited whenever we can bring such amazing women leaders in our organization, and just to hear their perspective and the amazing advice and counsel and inspiration that they bring to this audience. And so, Joy, Nikki, and Rosa will certainly bring it today. But I'm also happy to be here as a board chair and member of the Airport Leadership Collective, which is the host sponsor of this event. Thank you, Karen, for your leadership. The ALC is going through a period now of kind of right sizing and redirecting our energy to be more focused on being thought leaders. And you'll hear more about that in the coming months, so I won't talk much about that. But this is evidence of the ALC and AMAC's commitment to thought leadership, because the perspective that you'll hear from our panel members is certainly credible, and it will be inspiring as well. And so with that being said, again, I want to welcome you to the session, and I want to thank the panel members for engaging in your leadership and serving on this panel. Karen, it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. We are, again, super excited to have this dynamic group of women on this panel. We also want to make you aware that you have an option of being able to add comments or questions in the chat. I will be monitoring them throughout this 1 hour session. So please ensure that you add them in there, and I will be bringing them up periodically. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off and get started. And I'm not going to do an introduction, but what I'm going to ask each of the panel members to do is introduce themselves, tell you their name, the company they're with, the number of years they've been in the industry, and one fun fact, and I didn't tell them about this, one fun fact about them that would help you remember who they are. So I'll start with Rosa. I'll go in alphabetical order.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rosa Beckett. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, and that includes Jackson, Mecker, Wiley, Evers International Airport.
And I thought Hartsfield-Jackson had a long name.
Had to top it with one additional name in there. And Hawkinsville. I have actually been in the airport industry for over 22 years. So I actually started when I was about 10 years old or so. But I have been in the industry for over 22 years. A fun fact or a unique fact about me that will help you remember me is ironic that I'm in the airport industry, because I had a severe fear of flying and actually had to go through hypnosis to actually fly. So how ironic is that, to be in an industry that you were so deathly afraid of, and now I've flown just about all over the world.
Wow. And I think I remember the first time I met you, Rosa. Where were we? Were we in China?
We were in Hong Kong.
Right. And we got a chance to meet each other. I had heard about you, but I had not met you, but got a chance to spend some quality time and some shopping time with you in Hong Kong. And that's how we became friends. So welcome and thank you for joining us. How about Nikki? Nikki, you go next.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm Nikki Tinsley Harland. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Paradies Lagardère. We're a prime concessionaire, I'll say, in many, many airports across North America. I oversee a little bit of everything, and it's really exciting. So I won't give you the long list, but a lot of what makes our business run is what I have the pleasure of leading every day. I will celebrate 10 years, which is hard to believe, with the company in January. So I guess maybe a little bit of a rookie to the industry with 10 years. And prior to that, I did work in street side retail, with a couple of national chains, and started my career with Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta. I am, let's see, fun fact, I had two. So some folks on the call may know this about me, some may not. I grew up as a wrestling fan.
Oh,
And I was waiting for that look, Karen. So you will remember me. You will remember me for sure. When
I'm like,
everyone
wait,
sees,
what?
my father was a wrestling fan, and it was just a thing that we enjoyed together. I don't think my mom took pleasure in that at all, but you can imagine a little African American girl going to wrestling matches and getting all into it and being heartbroken when her favorites didn't win the match. That's who I was. So it's a fun fact. People didn't, never would have expected me to say that, but
Got it.
it was something that makes for a trivia question at some point.
True. And that's one that I would have never guessed. So thank you for sharing that.
There you go.
Joy, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. I am Joy Rohadfox, CEO of Rohadfox Construction Control, which is a 47-year-old construction and program management firm with civil engineering capabilities. I am, a fun fact, and I have another one, but I am the baby girl. I have 3 older brothers and had no interest in construction. And my father chose me to run the company.
He
But
chose
we have
the
12.
wise one.
He did. And we have 12 offices throughout the United States. The first airport project that I won was Hartsfield-Jackson. So we've been at Hartsfield now for over 20 years. Fun fact about me is I'm from North Carolina, went to Chapel Hill, but secretly was a Duke basketball fan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's pretty bad. So
Yeah. Had to keep that on the low, didn't you?
we'll keep that on.
Well, again, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. And as I mentioned to you when we had our initial phone call, this is a conversation. This is a girlfriend's kind of talk where you can talk about things that went well, things that you would tell your younger self now that you are where you are in your careers. And the audience would love to hear that some of the things that you've experienced as you've traversed throughout your career. So I'm going to start off with a few questions, but then I'm going to let you all chime in on each one of them if you'd like, and then we'll move from there. So please let us know one challenge you experienced in your career that a male counterpart may not have experienced, and how did you overcome it? Now, we've had it, and I'll give you a minute, but we've had, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 fireside chats at this point. And over the years, I have heard some stories from some of the panelists. One in particular was when we had our first one, and I share the story a lot, but we had and I'm having a brain freeze right now, but I'll come back to it. Either one, who wants to jump in on that one?
Well, I'll jump in because again, as women and as mothers, when I first joined the airport industry, I was a young or not so young mother, as it may be, with 2 children under 2 years old.
Wow.
And so I have always been an individual where I like to travel and learn and seek out sort of the holistic perspective of the industry that I'm in. And so one of the challenges I found with doing that, I would always want to have my kids with me. So that was a very expensive proposition where I would have to fly my sister into town, have her fly my 2 girls with her to whatever location I'm at. I was on an executive exchange in Germany for 8 weeks, and I had my 4 and 5-year-old daughter over in Germany with my sister. But I think as women, we typically, even though a male will have a partner, which is typically the mother who would take up those responsibilities. Not that I had a partner that didn't want to do that, but as mothers, I think we want our children with us, as much as we can. And so I think we underestimate sort of the cost of doing that for a male that you normally won't have a male experience.
Yeah, Sure. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. Lack of respect, being overlooked,
Ah,
opinions and suggestions being overlooked. I was just recently, I'm part of a few joint ventures, and I'm still treated like a sub-consultant.
wow.
And I was just recently told that my political relationships is really what brought me to the table. Yes, and it
Wow.
was only acknowledged at a reception because of an outfit that I had on, not because of my technical capabilities.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Nikki, anything?
It's so I have a few, so I won't list all of them, but Rosa and Joy's, I have very similar experiences. And one, I would say that as a mom, I worked outside of the industry, but I worked for what I would call a leading toy retailer that you would imagine for Christmas Day that you go to these places. And so we had a habit of obviously going and seeing our stores and spending times with teams, which was amazing. And they wanted to extend the trip. And I was in a car, and I've mostly worked with men for most of my career. And I just simply said, I can't. I have to go home. And I can remember sitting in a car in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, explaining why I needed to get home to help Santa prepare on the 23rd of December.
Yeah.
And at that moment, knowing that I had to work so hard to explain it, I literally was in tears and said, okay, this is about it. Like, this is, if you don't understand, that has to be it. And Joy, one of the things similar to your comments, I'm going to give you two here. When I started with Paradies 10 years ago, someone said, oh my goodness, they've got a pretty woman working for you. Like, and I said, and one of my close friends actually started working around the same time. I'm like, I don't think they said that to him.
Right.
It was like and it was made to me. Like it was to be a compliment. And it was the most offensive statement that obviously could have been made. And to this day, I work in the industry alongside that person in another company. And, you know, I don't think that would have ever been said. So I don't think men have to worry about being pretty or not.
Yeah,
they don't.
True that. And you know, that's why we are in the process as the chair of the planning committee. We're in the process of putting together a Women in Aviation Summit to kind of address some of these same issues that all women have that men don't have in this male-dominated industry. I remembered the story that I was trying to think of initially when I first asked the question. Gladys Brown is the airport director in Yuma, Arizona, I think it is. And so she said that when she became the airport director, she was being introduced to the I guess a group of city leaders. And so when she walked in the room, now if anybody knows Gladys, she is a beautiful woman. She's about 6 feet tall without heels on. But she said that she was determined to make sure that she had her first impression, people's first impression of her was going to be a good one. So she said she put on the highest heels that she has, and she wore the reddest lipstick that she had, and she walked in the room as they were introducing her. And she said as soon as she sat down, somebody asked her if she could get them a cup of coffee. Right. And so she said that she didn't say anything. She said somebody immediately said, no, this is our new airport director. And the person was like, oh, a woman kind of thing. And she said she still didn't say anything. She just sat there and smiled. So again, that's a lot of times of what you all are talking about as well, where men wouldn't have to go through that because nobody would ask a man, would you get me a cup of coffee? So interesting perspective. So thank you all for sharing that. So what if you were able to give your younger self some advice based on where you are in your career, in your life, your personal life? What age would you give that advice to, and what advice would that be?
I don't know if you wanted a certain way.
Just jump in.
I'll jump in and say, I don't know what age. It would have been early career. I've grown to get better, but I'm a worrier. So I like order, things, I'm a problem solver, things like that. But my earlier self worried so much about what could go wrong. And I would tell myself now, then, think, Nikki, about what could go right. And I think there are so many opportunities that I was just focused on not taking risks and not thinking about, some of the good stuff that could happen, but I was worried about what could go wrong, and I let those pass me by. And I would say that's early, that's in the 20s, kind of coming out of grad school and a lot of different things, but really like maybe shaking her a little bit and saying, Nikki, like some stuff can go right. And if it doesn't, it's kind of okay. And I've learned that. And so I would tell her that for sure.
Okay.
I'll jump in as well. I would tell my younger self to find or create a coalition of women who will work together, fight with you, fight what is right, and not against you. I think so many times we are so focused on the smaller piece of the pie, and we're fighting against each other. And now at this stage in our lives, or for 20 years, I've been running this organization. It's hard to find a group of women that are really focused on helping each other and fight for what is right and calling out what is wrong today.
And if I could, jump in, I think I would tell my younger self to really accept some promotional opportunities. My progression in this industry and in the financial services industry, where I was for 11 and a half years, I always wanted to know everything. I wanted to know every discipline and every aspect before I accepted that promotion. And sometimes I actually said, no, I'm not ready, and stepped away from a promotion. And where my counterparts may have been in there a year or two, and they took it on as if they had been there for 20 years and basically learned on the job. And so I think sometimes individuals see more in you than you see in yourself. And I could have taken those positions and leaned into the folks that were advocating for me to develop on the job and in those roles, and would have probably had some higher level positions much sooner on in my career.
Yeah, thank you for that. Angela Gittens was on the first Fireside Chat panel. One of the things that she said was, if you aspire to do something different, learn as much as you can, get out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself early on in the game before those positions become available or potential positions become available, so that when they do, you're already ready for it. So jump out of your comfort zone and learn different things and move in different directions. So, and I guess that kind of leads to another question. When I said that she was on the first panel, she's also my mentor today. So what do you all think about mentors? And to Joy, to your point where you say, surround yourself with a group with women that can help support what your goals are. What do you think about mentorship?
I think it's very important for feedback, advice, personal development, to correct gaps in your knowledge, and for just your mental health. Just going back to what Nikki and Rosa was saying, it's hard being a woman in this male-dominated industry. And sometimes we need someone, especially women, to lean on and just to listen to us and give us feedback from a woman's perspective. So I am all for having mentors, but you have to find the right one. And that has the same goal in mind.
And how do you think you find the right one? How do you know when you found the right one?
I think you are aligned with personality, somebody that pushes you to be the better Joy, or the better Nikki, or the better Rosa, your better self. They don't push you out of your lane. They keep you in your lane, but to progress and correct you when you're wrong, because that's important.
That sounds like one of my other mentors, who is Ben DaCosta. And I've told this story before and I'll keep saying it. I know a number of days that Mr. DaCosta I would walk out of the room in tears. I would be in the room in tears because and I know Justina's on, so she understands what I'm saying, but he would push. And then later in the day, after I've cried, he'd call me and say, you know why I pushed you? You know why? I didn't want to make you cry, but I pushed you because I knew you had more in you to give than you were giving. And I'm not going to let you just give me just a little bit. I want you to give me more. So a number of days, I was like, well, I don't think that's fair. That's not right. You didn't do that to anybody else. And now that I am where I am, I mean, not today, but probably maybe 10 years ago, I started thinking, okay, well, now I see what he was saying. And when I see him from time to time now, he said, that's why I was pushing you, because I knew you had it in you. You just weren't giving it to me, and I was going to make you give it to me.
It's funny, Karen, one of the things too, and listening to Joy's comment as well, I believe in mentorship. I'm a mentor to a number of women and men that are just amazing and who I hope to work for one day. So that's, I'm paying it forward just a little bit. The other thing though that I've learned, and this was in a Harvard Business Review article some time ago, and one of my mentors shared it with me probably about 12 years ago, was this idea of a personal board of directors. And the way that companies, organizations, or the way that Ricky is our chair for AMAC, and we have like this governance, think about yourself as an entity. And who would you select? Because people are selected to be on board. So who would you select to kind of be around that virtual table for you? And that's the way, kind of, especially getting into a C-suite space, that's how I've operated a little bit more, aside from just pure mentorship. There are folks that you want to have close to you for different conversations. So some mentors are generalists and they can help you with a ton of things. And then some people are specialized, like they just are. And so when you're thinking about a career move or a project or even personal things at home or not, you're going to call different people for things like that. So I'd encourage all of us to think about who's on the personal board of directors.
Okay, so wait, I have to stop right here. I did not realize Ben DaCosta was on this call when but what I said is what I said, and it's true. So yeah.
Hello, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
But the board of directors, I think, is important, and it hooks into mentorship. And I don't know that women specifically, or maybe people of color, I don't know, different groups that really kind of think about it that way. But, and you also change out chairs. So board tenure for boards expires, right? And so at a certain point, you need different people for different stages of your life. And so that has just helped me incredibly.
And I am also a big advocate of mentors, and I don't necessarily think that the mentor has to be of the same gender or the same race as you. And it's someone who is really being honest and candid with you. I can remember growing in my career in financial services, and I had a mentor, and he would say, Rosa, don't wear your hair braided because it's a distraction, and as an African-American female, hearing that from a 60-year-old Irish Catholic, at first I was offended, and he said, no, I'm just telling you because I'm sitting in the room when you're not there. And so if you can, adapt to the environment, that's going to help you get ahead. I think today we're a little more tolerant of things like that, but a mentor would be honest and telling you things that will help move you along in your career if they know what your desires are in that area. And then I also, in addition to a mentor is someone that I'm candid with and I'm more vulnerable with, but I also look for sponsors. And those people that can advocate for me when I'm not in the room. And those are the individuals that I'm trying to display my competencies to, so when opportunities come up, they'll think of me. And I can just remember when I joined the Jacksonville Aviation Authority, I was always exposed to the board. And I always was overly professional with them, overly on point, making sure I was thorough. And I built relationships with a number of the board members who became sponsors. And so when board positions came open, you know, one of the board members recommended me for the board of directors for Baptist Health System, which is $1 billion operations. And so I would be less vulnerable with her because I was looking for her to advocate for me when I wasn't there, to provide opportunities where a mentor, you know, I'm really being vulnerable and trying to get that candid feedback.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's a question in the chat that I want to pose to you all. In your current role, what projects or initiatives are you most excited about, and how do they impact the future of aviation?
I can jump in that. I am 5 months into my new role as the CEO here in Jackson. And I've had so many people, even my fellow airport directors in Mississippi, they will comment, well, why did you come to Mississippi? You've been in Florida and Pittsburgh. It's just unlikely for you to come, you know, to small Mississippi. But once I hit the ground here and I saw the opportunity as far as the additional land that we have that's surrounding Jan, and the opportunity to use some of those skills for aeronautical and non-aeronautical development and mixed use industrial, it really provides an opportunity for me to do things that I really am interested in, which is economic development, both from a regional and a state level. And so I'm ready to really dig in and hopefully after a number of years, leave Mississippi, not just with an airport legacy, but an economic development legacy in central Mississippi.
And Rosa, I totally agree with you. And I hope some of my clients are not on here because I have a special affinity for Hartsfield-Jackson. I love Hartsfield-Jackson. I love Atlanta, and nothing brings me greater pleasure than to be able to land at Hartsfield-Jackson and then brag about ATL Next and the program that is occurring there, and to be able to talk about the minority participation that is not only encouraged but is demanded there, and that I can provide jobs for young women. That's something that Rohadfox is doing now. We're starting we've started a program that we're bringing young women right out of school, and our client at Hartsfield-Jackson is allowing us to bring them in as interns and getting them trained in different areas. So it's the economic impact, and it's the quality of life, and it's bringing just opportunities to our community.
Well, and so Joy, I would say I'm based in Atlanta, so I love Hartsville, International Airport, and I also have about 89 other airports that I love. I will say that, and it is true. This is a really great time for our industry. There is so much growth happening. I mean, the announcements and just the conversations we're having about new routes, expansions, like just everything that's happening over aviation for the next few years is exciting. One of the things that I'm most particularly excited about, and I think this group knows about it, but we have acquired or stated that we are acquiring Taste on the Fly, a small or smaller dining organization that's just incredible and amazing. And so we'll close soon, but we will integrate that into our existing dining business, which just over a handful of years has grown, you know, dramatically. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that from our acquisition of HBF a few years ago and Vino Bolo, I was executive sponsor of that work. So I get to do that again because now it falls within my responsibility. But that will shape the industry, I think, in a great way, in addition to other dining offerings in airports. But it allows us to really get into a space of talking more about hybrids and talking more about concepts that begin to blend together. And, you know, we all plan to be here for a very long time and to be in the industry for a very long time. So moves like that for our organization and others in the industry, I think are important. And just this kind of combination of business lines and what that means for a traveler's experience is super exciting to me. So, you know, it's not necessarily a close match to exactly what you're doing, Joy or Rosa, but I think, again, going back to the ecosystem for it all, it's pretty amazing as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this question always comes up. Did you always want to be in the aviation industry? When you were growing up as a young child, did you just think, oh, I just gotta be in aviation? Yes? No?
Definitely not. I had
No.
no idea what type of opportunities existed in the aviation and airport industry. My last career was in financial services, and I flew every other week for like a year. And all I ever thought about was getting in and out. But now that I'm in the airport industry, I'm looking at everyone's restrooms. I'm looking at their wayfinding.
You see it differently now.
I'm critiquing everything, but the biggest and the most exciting part about it for me is I've had the opportunity to move around in a number of different disciplines, from HR to procurement to IT to air service development to marketing to land development, and now sitting in the CEO seat, really having all of those disciplines under me. So it's been exciting. I am trying to encourage exposure to aviation. JMAA has a Jet A program, which is high school students, and I'm looking at partnering with Jackson Public School System, really trying to direct the younger generations to the different career options that are available in the aviation industry.
Yeah, thank you.
I would tell you, Karen, hooking into Rosa's comment, I won't be overly repetitive here. No, and I literally, my parents' home that we still have is down the street from the Atlanta airport, like literally down the street. And so not until 10 years ago did I even understand kind of this business environment that happens in aviation. So didn't even think about it, didn't know about it until someone called and said, there's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Will you go talk to this company, Paradies? And I'm like, what's the Paradies? Like, what is this? And learned almost overnight about it. And I'm grateful for that. But to Rosa's point, and we have, relationships with a lot of schools across North America and kind of job prep type programs. But I want young people to know that they can be an airport CEO or
Absolutely.
the CEO of a company that supports airports. And we just don't talk about it. And it feels like a mystery. And it feels like sometimes it's something that's kind of passed down more into like a boys club
Mm-hmm.
than it is to others. And I think we're breaking that glass, which is great to have wonderful allies, like folks that we serve on the AMAC board with. But it's going to take some time. But I just wish that at the age of 12, I had a sense that something like this was possible.
Yeah. Well, Joy, I'm sure because of your background, your response is going to be a little different.
It's a little different. We work in different sectors, but I will say our headquarters, when I took over the firm, was in Durham, North Carolina. And when my father asked me to become the CEO, I was living in Atlanta. And I pretty much begged him that I did not want to go back to Durham. And can I move the headquarters to Atlanta? And he said, only if you can land a contract at Hartsfield-Jackson, because he knew it would sustain the firm. And there was a young woman who was the first woman in Atlanta that helped me by the name of Myrna White that brought Rohadfox to the table. So never had any interest in aviation until my father pushed me into it, and then had a mentor that helped me become a staple at Hartsfield-Jackson.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So I have a question that says, please talk about how imposter syndrome has played in points of your career? Was it more difficult without a mentor slash advocate or advocate, and how did you overcome it?
I'll jump in and start. So yes, and I think sometimes it still shows up today for me, but I can think back, and again, I talked about some M&A work, so acquisition work that we've done, and usually I've been in a support role and, you know, have been the advisor, the advocate for other folks to do really great things. And I can remember a conversation with Greg, who's our CEO and really great guy. And we were talking about sponsorship for this project when we acquired HBF. And I presented an entire list of names of people that could do this. And he patiently listened. We were in his office and he's like, that's really great, but Nikki, I think you should do this. Like, that's great, but like, this should be your assignment because here are the things that I think you can do. And I was torn. So in the moment, I should have just said, yes, got it, this is great. But this level of imposter syndrome that I was not ready. I was not, and I have the green light, right? Like if the CEO is saying to do this, I have the green light. And I just really sat there and could not like figure out why this was going to be a great thing for me. It worked out very well in the end, but it was the level of sponsorship from Greg and Reginald Washington, who was the CEO of HBF at the time, that basically said, you're going to do this. Otherwise, I would have declined. But it was their sponsorship. So yes, it does happen. And two, it does take some folks that know what they're talking about to push you out there and get out of this mindset of imposter syndrome.
I think that kind of goes back to my earlier comment about what I would have told my younger self. You know, again, just toying with not accepting your potential early on. And especially when someone's there that sees something in you and they're willing to support and stand behind you to achieve that. And I think women more so than men, and maybe people of color more so than non-folks of color, are hesitant to jump out there in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Okay.
Similar story. And I think for me, it's more of pushing out of the sub-consultant role into a partnership, into a true joint venture partnership. And it took a lot of mentors and sponsors to help me to get out of that mindset as well.
Okay. Well, and I'm not just asking these questions, but now that I know that he's on the call, I feel some kind of way about it. But one of the things Ben used to encourage us to do is read, get as much information as you can, learn as much as you can. So I'll ask you ladies, what is one of your favorite books that you have read that's been helpful for you in your career?
I'll start. The Art of War. I absolutely love that book because this is a very treacherous industry, as we know. I think it teaches you how to survive, know when to fight, and fight strategically and psychologically. And I think that minimizes damage. So I love the Art of War.
Perfect.
I would chime in with The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Again, because we see people that are extremely successful and you think that they're on this spectrum that's out of reach. And then when you read his book, he's telling you, no, there are no true outliers. It's really practice and commitment and stick-to-itness that really get those folks in the positions where they seem like they're outliers, but it's just the commitment and the perseverance to become the best. And so all can achieve that with that dedication.
Yeah, I agree.
I would add, Karen, the title is called Mindset. I think folks have read this maybe, but it's by Carol Dweck. She's a Stanford PhD. And if you've heard of the growth in the fixed mindset, this is the book that kind of gave birth to it. But the idea that failure is permanent, that's the fixed mindset. You don't learn from it, you don't grow from it. You don't see possibility. And the growth mindset allows you to say yes and basically. And I would ask everyone to go pick it up. It's a nice little paperback. You could probably get a copy of some of it on the internet by now because it's an older read, but it's a quick read, but you get life lessons, parenting lessons, professional lessons, all of these things. But basically it does say that the growth mindset is what keeps you moving forward, and the fixed mindset has you stuck where you will always be because you see nothing beyond what has gone right or what has gone wrong, but you live in a box.
Okay. So one other question that's in the chat: are there memorable or challenging moments from your career that have been particularly influential in your professional growth and development? Do, 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 do. Well, I'm reading the question as it's written, so no, yes.
Yes, I'm thinking I'm trying to maybe sort through which one to talk about. So I would say yes for sure. And they were early on, again, kind of these breakout moments of doing something different. So I'll probably encapsulate them into some other things, Karen, but for sure. And they were career defining, and they were hard, and they were things you did not want to do by any means. And if I had not done them, I would not be on this Zoom with you today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think for me, it was, my background is not construction. I'm not an engineer, and I had no interest again in this industry, but my father was sick and I had no alternative unless I wanted his legacy to die off and then to go into this industry. And so he pushed me pretty much into business, and I didn't even have a business degree. My background is medicine. So being able to just jump in, knowing that he had my back, was a defining moment for me. And I have learned a lot of lessons along the way. But that was a defining moment for me, just him believing that I could run this organization.
Absolutely.
I think one experience that I had is really taking my first international assignment and really going over, and the first thing you think is, do you speak the language? You know, I've got to do Babel or something to try to speak German or download an app. And, you know, again, just biting that bullet and going over, because the business language is English. And so getting away from that fear of going out and exploring something different and building those relationships, you know, that happened, you know, about 15 years ago, and I still have relationships from that experience. And it's relationships in the industry that have helped me grow, have actually gotten me positions, C-level positions in the industry. But again, you know, going over there saying, God, I barely speak proper English, so now I'm going.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Karen,
So we're getting close to the end. Did you want to chime in, Nikki? I'm sorry.
yeah, it was just something that was a little bit different, but listening to Rosa's example, it's the opposite. So it triggered something different in me, and starting in this industry specifically. And again, like I said, 10 years ago, one of my first conferences was not the AMAC conference, I'll say. And I went there and I really thought, I do not belong. I see nothing or no one that looks like me. And then I saw a few familiar faces. And so I won't say it was career defining, but it was assuring, and it was a trigger, because before going to that conference, my former company, before I came to Paradies, said, you got 6 months. So if you and your husband and son want to come back, you got 6 months. We'll take you back. And I thought about it for a second because it was different. So it was defining on I know that this can get better. And my hope and dream was that, literally, like sitting on a call like this today and looking at some of the names of folks that are on here makes me feel better 10 years later. But that was defining for me, that I would not let just that experience shape what I thought of the industry or what my career could be kind of in this space. So a little bit of an opposite effect, but your travel example kind of reminded me of that, Rosa.
Got it. Okay. So I have two more questions. Why did you all agree to participate on this panel, other than the fact that I asked you? I mean, other than that.
I think it's important to share each other's experience and to learn from each other. And I think it's an awesome opportunity to just hear how we operate in this industry, in this male-dominated industry as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think it's really good to share, but it's such an opportunity to learn and hear stories from others in the industry. And then you find out, well, God, that happened to me as well.
Absolutely.
And I could see that as we were speaking, it's like, yeah, I have something similar to that. And so we're not alone. And
You
so
are not alone. I know I can't sing.
I would ditto both of those comments from Joy and Rosa. Beyond Karen, we think the world of you, and we would absolutely always take an invitation from you. I believe in ALC, I believe in AMAC, and this is a nice forum for us to do this. And I shared the invite. I think one of the first questions I had for you, Karen, was, can I share it with people kind of just outside of this space? And I can talk about this stuff all the time, but exposing Joy and Rosa and you and the folks that are putting in the chats to more people, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Awesome. And then my last question is, what is one piece of advice you would like to give the attendees that might be interested in advancing their career in the aviation industry?
I think my advice would be similar to what you mentioned, that Angela Gittens mentioned. I mean, really explore and begin to learn outside of your discipline if you're in this industry, especially on the airport side. You know, we often come in and especially women and people of color, we'll come in administration, or we may come in finance, but you'll rarely see us in operations. And so one thing that I did when I first got in the industry is help with the airport security plan. You know, I was a proofer and an editor, but it exposed me to the technical requirements of airport security. So stick your nose into other disciplines, and you're actually learning from a holistic perspective about airport operations.
I think I would chime in on Rosa's point on that as well. Number one, I'd say forget the job title. Forget the job title, forget your department, forget all of that, and get experiences. I started in this space in people functions, HR. That's how I met Rosa years ago when she was in Jacksonville. But I just kind of took opportunities to learn and figure stuff out, and I was curious enough. So the advice would be, forget about your box. I know that's what the direct deposit makes you do, and you focus on how you get the paycheck. I get that, but there are other things that you can do and just get exposure to that make a difference, and don't be afraid to do that.
Totally agree with Nikki and Rosa. Do something that sets you apart, but find an organization, join AMAC, find a great networks. And whatever you do a great job at it.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just going to share some of the comments in the chat. It's really encouraging. Robin said, ladies, I am in IT, and as a woman, it's extremely difficult and find myself as the only female in the room more often than not, especially in a small business in Oklahoma. Thank you for sharing your open thoughts. Your sharing has made my day. I am recharged knowing that you are out there providing great examples. Phenomenal panel. Thank you, ladies, for your honest insight and fireside chat. So that's the purpose of this chat, so that we can have just a candid conversation about life and how you are navigating as female leaders in the aviation industry, in a male-dominated industry. One last reminder I'd like to mention is that on next Wednesday, we're preparing for the 39th annual AMAC Business Diversity Conference, which will be in Nashville in 2024. But before we do that, we have a stakeholders reception next Wednesday from 6:30 to 8:30 in Nashville. So please go to the AMAC website for additional information. If it's not, I don't think it'll be put in the chat, but you can find out information. We'd love to see you there. It's a great opportunity to hear about what's going to be coming up for the conference in 2024. And so we look forward to seeing you there. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to include them in the chat, because we have about 6 minutes left, and that's all we have for today. So thank you. Please join me in thanking our panelists for being a part of this Fireside Chat. We will have another one before the end of this year, hopefully in December. If not in December, it'll be in January. But we'll bring on another group of phenomenal women that will be able to share their experiences and respond to your questions as they come up. So thank you so much. Ricky, I know you're still online. Do you want to give any closing comments, sir? He didn't come off speaker. I guess that's a no. Oh,
I never waste an opportunity to say closing.
I knew you were gonna come off and say something.
Well, this is part 2 of cleaning this up. No, I hope the audience was as inspired and informed by the remarks from these amazing ladies as I was, and others. And Karen, I always want to thank you for your leadership. Fireside Chat is such a special part of AMAC's portfolio of outreach efforts, and ALC is certainly proud of this. And the ladies, you never let us down. So thank you so much for all that you've had to say, and I hope the audience enjoyed this as well.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank
Take care.
you,
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.